Hello, and welcome to our podcast episode number 105, The Unlikely Duo. A grumpy cop and an 8-year-old boy solve murder mysteries. I am Thomas, and I am here with my friend Timothy. Today, we are going to talk about a film called Cop and a Half. So glad that you, dear viewer, could join our film night.
Cop and a Half is a 1993 American family buddy cop comedy film directed by Henry Winkler. It stars Burt Reynolds as a veteran cop who reluctantly takes an 8-year-old boy played by Norman D. Golden Second as his partner to solve a murder investigation. The plot revolves around their comic adventures and struggles while trying to find the killer and bring down a drug kingpin. To begin with, I didn't like the film, even though adventure is one of my favorite genres. So, Thomas, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, Timothy, I thought it was quite entertaining, actually. I mean, sure, it's not Citizen Kane or something, but I don't go watch films like Cop and a Half for Oscar-winning performances, do I? I just want to laugh and forget about my troubles for a couple of hours. Yeah, no? And this film delivered on that front. Burt Reynolds and the little boy, Norman D. Golden Second, had some pretty funny moments together. The kid even showed some acting chops considering his age.
But it's not about the laughs alone, Tom. A good film should also have a good storyline, well-developed characters, and an actual plot that keeps you interested throughout the entire runtime. Not just rely on cheap laughs and childish antics. Cop and a Half fails miserably on all those counts, in my opinion.
Oh, come on, Timothy. It's just supposed to be a light-hearted comedy. You can't expect it to have complex character arcs and a deep philosophical message hidden behind every scene, can you? Sometimes we watch films like Cop and a Half for exactly what they are: mindless entertainment.
Well, I disagree with you there, Tom. A film has the power to transport us to different worlds, to show us the depths of human emotions, and even to teach us valuable lessons about life. Cop and a Half doesn't do any of that. It's just, it's just not good, that's all I can say.
Okay, fine. But at least it had some moments that made me laugh, right? Even if it wasn't the most sophisticated of comedies.
Well, that is something we can agree on, Tom. The film did manage to raise a few chuckles, especially during the scenes with Devon and his friend Ray. But those moments were far and between the painfully unfunny moments and the cringe-worthy cliché that seemed to plague this. Film is too generous of a term.
Come on, Timothy. It's not supposed to be a masterpiece. It's just a silly comedy with Burt Reynolds and an adorable kid running around solving crimes. Can't we just enjoy it for what it is and not nitpick every little thing?
If you insist on that line of thought, Tom, then let's talk about the plot holes in the silly comedy, shall we? For instance, how did Devon know exactly where to find the bad guy's hideout? And why didn't anyone question him about his knowledge of police procedures and tactics for an 8-year-old boy?
Well, it's a movie, Tim. You can't expect it to be 100% realistic or logical all the time. Besides...
Thomas, let's not forget our topic for today. Cop and a Half. So what do you think about the film? Do you agree with my assessment, or are we still on different sides of the fence here?
Well, Timothy, I have to admit that the plot of Cop and a Half does suffer from some significant holes and inconsistencies, as you pointed out. However, I think it's important to remember that this is a comedy action film aimed more at providing laughter and entertainment rather than delivering a well-crafted masterpiece of cinematic storytelling. In terms of the plot itself, the premise of an experienced cop reluctantly being paired with an eager 8-year-old boy is quite funny on paper. The duo's bumbling adventures and their clashing personalities generate some genuine laughter throughout the film. While the storyline may not be groundbreaking or original, it does manage to keep the audience engaged with its light-hearted antics and occasional moments of suspense. As for the performances, Burt Reynolds delivers a decent performance as the grumpy cop who slowly warms up to his pint-sized partner. However, it's Norman D. Golden II who truly steals the show as Devon Butler, bringing an infectious charm and charisma to the role that easily endears him to viewers of all ages. In conclusion, Cop and a Half may not be a cinematic masterpiece, but it does provide a few hours of mindless escapism and harmless laughter. It's a film that you can watch with your family or friends on a rainy Saturday afternoon. Just don't expect Oscar-worthy performances or a tightly knit plot. So, Timothy, what do you think? Do you still stand by your previous evaluation of Cop and a Half as a hemorrhoid and have to sit through? Or have I managed to convince you that there are some redeemable qualities in this seemingly forgotten film?
Well, Tom, I have to admit that your analysis has given me something to think about. I still stand by my initial assessment that Cop and a Half isn't the greatest film ever made. But perhaps it does deserve some credit for its attempts at providing lighthearted entertainment. As for the trivia surrounding this movie, did you know that Ray Sharkey, who played the role of the main villain in a Cop and a Half, passed away just days after the film's release? This was indeed shocking news, as he had been battling AIDS at the time, but chose to keep it private. His untimely death casted a shadow over the promotion of the film, with many feeling that it was a tragic end for such a talented actor. Additionally, Cop and a Half received mixed reviews from critics upon its release, with some praising the comedic elements while others criticized its lack of depth and originality. Despite this, the film managed to perform moderately well at the box office, which led to several sequels and spin-offs being produced over the years, albeit none of them quite matching the success or notoriety of the original. So there you have it, Tom. Some interesting trivia about Cop and a Half that adds an extra layer of intrigue to this seemingly ordinary comedy film. As for the discussion, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on whether or not sequels are ever necessary in cases like these where the original may have been flawed but still managed to capture some hearts and minds due to its unique premise.
Well, Timothy, sequels can be hit or miss, especially when it comes to comedic films like Cop and a Half. While some sequels may have been able to build upon the original's premise and characters, many times they tend to fall short of replicating the charm and freshness that made the original successful. In this case, I personally think that one or even two well-executed sequels could have potentially expanded on the unlikely duo's adventures without diluting the overall appeal of the original film. However, as we all know, Hollywood has a history of milking franchises dry, oftentimes sacrificing quality for quantity and profitability. Cop and a Half is no exception, with 5 sequels and a spin-off movie being released in the following years. While some fans may have enjoyed the continued exploits of Devon and his grumpy partner, I personally think that the formulaic nature of these subsequent films led to an overall decline in the quality and originality of the franchise as a whole. So, Timothy, do you think there were any redeemable qualities in the sequels or spin-offs of Cop and a Half? Were there any performances or plot lines that managed to captivate your attention despite the series' declining quality?
Well, Tom, I'm afraid I can't say that I've had the pleasure of enduring the painful journey that is the Cop and a Half franchise beyond its original film. While I do appreciate a good sequel or spin-off when done well, the mediocre critical reception and dwindling box office returns of the subsequent installments in this series have been enough to deter me from subjecting myself to such cinematic torture. As for the performances, Burt Reynolds' portrayal of the reluctant cop detective Burns is decent enough, although he doesn't really bring anything particularly memorable to the role. Norman D. Golden II, on the other hand, does a commendable job as Devon Butler, the eager, beyond his years child prodigy who dreams of becoming a police officer. The chemistry between these two actors is what ultimately saves the film from being completely unwatchable. Their bickering and banter provides some much-needed cultural contribution of Cop and a Half.
Well, Timothy, despite its numerous flaws and questionable plot holes, Cop and a Half did manage to make some cultural contributions during its time. For one, it introduced a new type of buddy cop duo to the big screen, an unlikely pairing of a grumpy veteran cop and an energetic 8-year-old boy who, despite their initial differences, learned to work together and even develop a grudging respect for each other. This dynamic was later replicated in numerous films and TV shows, such as Lethal Weapon and Buddy Cop 2-Inch. Moreover, the film also poked fun at some of the cliché present in police procedural films of its era. For example, the corrupt police officers portrayed by Ray Sharkey and Tony Castillo, who are more concerned with their own personal gain than upholding the law, subvert the usual one bad cop trope commonly seen in these types of films. Additionally, Cop and a Half also tackled themes of friendship, family, and the importance of listening to children's dreams, albeit in a somewhat shallow manner. While the film itself may not be considered a cinematic masterpiece, it did manage to capture some aspects of American culture during its time, particularly the rise of the buddy cop genre and the growing awareness of the importance of listening to children's aspirations. Whether it positively or negatively influenced these cultural trends is up for debate, but one can't deny that Cop and a Half did leave some sort of cultural footprint on the landscape of 90s action comedy films. So, Timothy, do you think there are any other notable cultural contributions made by Cop and a Half? Are there any other films or TV shows that you think were inspired by this film's unique dynamic between an old grumpy cop and a young energetic kid?
Well, Tom, while Cop and a Half certainly doesn't rank high on my list of favorite films, it does have some redeemable qualities, particularly in terms of the performances by Burt Reynolds and Norman D. Golden II. Their chemistry on screen is what ultimately saves the film from being completely unwatchable. As for any cultural contributions made by Cop and a Half, as you mentioned, it did pave the way for the buddy cop genre's portrayal of unlikely duos. However, when compared to classics like Lethal Weapon or even more recent hits like Ride Along, it simply doesn't quite measure up as for other films and TV shows that were inspired by this film's unique dynamic. One can see elements of Cop and a Half in modern-day sitcoms like Cops and Robbers, where an older law enforcement officer is paired with a young aspiring cop. In conclusion, while Cop and a Half may not be the most groundbreaking or thought-provoking film ever made, it does serve its purpose as mindless entertainment for those looking for a few laughs and some lighthearted escapism. It's a harmless, brainless, and ultimately forgettable comedy that can be enjoyed with popcorn and a sense of humor tuned towards the absurd. So, if you're in the mood for something lighthearted and uncomplicated, give Cop and a Half a chance. Just don't expect Oscar-worthy performances or a deep analysis of the complexities of human nature. But hey, that's what we have Timeless Classics Film Club for, right? And now, before we wrap up today's episode, let's hear your thoughts, dear viewers. Did you enjoy our discussion on Cop and a Half? Do you have any favorite scenes or lines from the film? Or perhaps you disagree with us entirely and think this is a masterpiece of cinema that has been underappreciated by the masses. Whatever your opinion may be, we love hearing from you. So please hit the button, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment down below telling us what you thought about today's episode. Until next time, farewell, and enjoy your day